What's up everyone? Just want to do a quick review. Actually, this is going to be a two-part review of the Dunlop KT6 tire. This will be the initial review because this tire does require a break-in period. I'll do another video, a follow-up video after I've put a couple hundred miles on this and it's broken in properly. So there are actually two versions of this tire. This is the KT6 11.5 by 7.1 by 6. This is the rear version, and then there's a front version which is the 11.5 by 5. I think it's 5 or 5.1 by 6. So the KT6 was a little bit harder to install than a regular tire like the Vega. The Vega is a really thin tire, so you can kind of crush the, or you can kind of collapse the tire easily with just one hand. But you can see on the KT6, it's got these huge threads and it's really hard to just collapse. So the key to getting the tires off the rim is you have to collapse the tire, and then on the inside of the hub, there's like a little special groove on one side of the tire. You have to get the lip of the tire and as much of the tire inside that little lip as possible, and then you can kind of wiggle the tire out. But because the KT6 is really thick, it was a little bit harder to get it to collapse, to get into that groove. But once you get into that groove, you could kind of just muscle it in. I mean, as you can see, I'm only like 135 pounds, and it wasn't that hard once you get the tire in that groove. And then after you get it all seated in, you pop the two beads. The first bead popped at like 20 something. While I was airing up, I was kind of pushing on it and I heard it pop. And then the second one was like at 40, around 40. So the install of this tire wasn't that hard from start to finish. Probably 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So the KT6 is a really big tire. The place I got it from, they said it fit, but it takes a lot of breaking in for this tire to fit. When I first installed it, when it was brand new with the nipples and everything, I had to run it at like 10 psi, and it was super loud because it was rubbing on the back end of my board where the battery box is. But you just do a quick simple burnout, and I'll show you what the burnout. This is how you quickly break in the tire. Just grab the board under where the handle is, grab here, and then use your thumbs to engage the sensors, and then level out the board. And then you just kind of shape the tire. So after the first burnout, all the nipples ran off. It started running okay at 10 psi. But then to get this tire to run at whatever psi you're comfortable with, I usually run at like 20 psi. So you'll just have to keep doing the burnouts and then giving a little bit air, and then doing more burnouts, and just keep repeating the process until you can get it to the psi you want without rubbing. I'm currently running this at 16 psi, and it took a lot of rubbing to get it to this point. Like I said, I'll do a follow-up to this video once I get the tire to around 20 psi, but that's going to take a lot more rubbing to get it down to where I want it to run. So as far as the ride goes, just take everything with a grain of salt because this is still in the break-in period. I've only had about 50 miles on this, but it's always been running at like 10 to 16 psi. So once I get it to about 20 psi, I'll do another review. But so far, running this at 16 psi, I don't know if it's the tire or just the super low psi, it's killed my mileage. On the Vega running 20 psi, I was getting around 16 to 18 miles on one charge, but with this I'm only getting about 7 miles per charge. It's probably because the psi is so low and I'm doing a lot of the burnouts. But even just a normal ride, I can ride like 3 miles and then I'll look on my app and it'll say I have like 50% left. So as far as the ride quality, based on the 16 psi that I'm riding on, I'm going to compare it to the Vega, the stock Vega, because I mean everyone's ridden that before. As far as the carvability, I would say from 1 to 10, the Vega would be, let's just say like an 8. 0 would be like unable to carve, and then 10 would be like riding a Vega on snow or something. So I'll just say the Vega is a baseline 5. Okay, so based on the Vega, this tire at 16 psi, I feel like it is harder to carve. On 0 to 10, I would probably give it like a 3 or 4, because I feel like when you're going you know, like 15 miles per hour, you have to kind of fight to get the board to carve. On the Vega, when I was riding at, like, you know, anything above 15 miles per hour, you would get that little wiggle, you know, at high speeds. But with this, I haven't noticed it at all. This tire is a lot more stable than the Vega. But then again, you're sacrificing stability for the carvability. So for high-speed rides, this is a really good tire because I feel like it's really stable. But then you just have to work a little bit more to get it to carve. But then at slow speeds, like, you know, under 5 miles per hour, I would give the Vega like probably like a 7 or 8. And this would be like a 3 again, because this one, I know on the Vega you can like get it on the edge of the tire and do like really tight turns, but this one, I don't know if you can see, but the edge is like really sharp, you know, right here, whereas the Vega is like more rounded. But I think what I can do is just do some burnouts and kind of smooth out these edges so it can get on the edge and do those really tight turns. So I noticed that the KT6 is a lot harder to turn than the Vega. On the Vega, you could almost like dance in small little tight areas like this, and the control on it is really easy. But I feel like on the KT6, you have to kind of fight to get this thing to turn, which is not bad. Maybe it just takes a little bit of time to get used to. But I really like the KT6 for the ability to really do some easy turns. So where the KT6 really shines is off-road. I love off-roading on this thing. It feels so stable. Riding the KT6 off-road is like riding the Vega on the concrete. Ugh, it's muddy over here. But on the KT6, it is so easy to carve and it's so stable. It soaks up all the little bumps easily, so you can keep your board level, and it makes it so easy to ride off-road. So this will be it for the initial review of the Dunlop KT6 7.1. I'll do a follow-up video once I get this baby up to 20 psi and shaped the way I like it. But so far, I like the stability, I like the high-speed carvability, I love the off-road performance. I would just like for this tire to be a little bit more carvable in the, you know, under 5 miles per hour. So make sure you like this video and then put in the comments below what you think about this tire. Do you have this tire? And if you do you have any tips on how to break these tires in? Because it seems like it's going to take a long time for me to get this tire down or up to 20 psi, because even at 16 psi I got a pretty good rub going on right now. But make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can be notified when part 2 of this video is coming. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
What's up, baby?
Hi.
Mama. Papa.
Hi, Carly.